Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday and welcome to the Early Edge. We are brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. We got a great show. We're going to be leaning into Monday Night Football. We got some NBA for you and an NHL pick as well, courtesy of SportsLine. Let's take a look to see how we did over the weekend. We had a couple winning days in a row. This is not one of them. 6-10. Let's see. Chip Patterson goes 2 out of 3. SportsLine picks don't really come through. Buckets has an off day after having a couple of great days, frankly, last week on the Early Edge. My Chris Rodriguez bet was void. I lost a tournament matchup, and we got heartbreaker on the outright that we had at the Alfred Dunhill. But I will say, if you watch the prop show, you hit 2 out of 3 on my SportsLine picks, courtesy of that prop show, including a Ricky Pearsall ladder that I think a lot of you were on. Very happy to see that. Also very happy to see the stars of the show. Let's bring them in. It includes Liddy. It includes, let's see, Pogo Picks is in here. We got Ron Moore, Jay Rill, Larry Hartstein, Mike McClure, Mikey B, and Propstarz Proppy. We got a Monday Night Football game tonight. I'm going to go to you first. How you feeling about Pittsburgh, Miami?
Good morning, Sia, and hello, gentlemen. Yeah, I'm fired up. This is an interesting game. If you've been following me, you know we're heavily invested into the NFL futures market, and my biggest overall position is the Miami Dolphins under 8.5 wins. It looks signed, sealed, and deliver 5 weeks ago, and then this Dolphins team has managed to reel off consecutive wins, I believe 4 or 5, and are playing good football. So I actually use this opportunity, since I have a massive position fading them, to hedge on them tonight. So I'm actually going to look to thread the needle. I bet the Dolphins money line. I'm hoping the Dolphins prevail, and then they go 1-2 over their last 3 games here. But interesting spot. I know a lot of you watching this also have positions on the Dolphins win total, so something to consider here moving forward.
So I have an official play for this show, like I normally do, and so does everybody else on this show. I was considering, and honestly, I might wait for it to tick back up to 3.5 before I put it in. I haven't really decided, but Larry, I'm considering Miami +3. I think it's way too many points, especially when we consider some of the injuries on the Steelers side. We can talk about that game as we go through this show, but Larry, I always come to you first, and we will get to picks in a second to get some reaction from Sunday, or perhaps you were teasing something before the show, maybe a reaction from our free SportsLine Discord, free for SportsLine members, of course.
Yeah, huge day in the NFL. And guys, we've all done this a while, right? I mean, we know that the game is 60 minutes, that what happens on the first play or the first drive doesn't necessarily mean that's the way the game is going to go, right? Well, there's a fellow, a loyal subscriber who wears his heart on his sleeve. And Jeff Hockman put out the Bills as his game of the year. Jeff is one of those old school guys who still uses those terminologies, but he loved the Bills so much, and he kept talking about it. And then Booty makes that catch that they don't challenge. And then the Patriots go up 7-0. And this fellow it's over. Patriots win. And then as it gets to be 21-0, he is just railing on how bad this pick was. And everybody's like, yep, I already lost my ticket. My Bills ticket is trash. Josh Allen can never come back. And then the rest of the day, oh my God, you should have seen the Discord. It was the most entertaining 3 hours of Discord chat because of how this, fellow set himself up for that Bills comeback.
I'm sorry I missed that, but it looks like some people in the chat, including Jen and others, got a chance to witness that as well. Hey, listen, that happens in the NFL. People sometimes celebrate stuff. 28-3 Falcons fans. I'm sure you remember that as well. Proppy, go ahead.
Larry, always the diplomat, afraid to name names. I would like to hear exactly who that was.
So. We got both Mikes in here as well. I do want to kick things off with a pick. Mikey B, I know you've got some NBA picks, but as always, we want some NFL opinions from you as well, because I sort of box you into a certain category, but the truth is you cover it all. Mike McClure, I thought you covered it all until last week. Because last week, or it was either Thursday, I think it was Thursday Night Football, I was like, well, I've never seen, like, of all the people to make unique bets, Mike's first quarter, first half, team totals, things of that nature. Well, you came to the show, and it was in the Falcons game against the Bucs with a bet I had never seen you make before. And now we're going right back to it.
Going right back to it, I'm going to look for the Dolphins. While they have been a bright spot in the NFL recently. I'm going to look for them to punt on their opening drive here, plus 105. Look, they've been good, right? I still think this number should be closer to minus 120. I think it should be right around that 55% to punt on an opening drive. You're talking about a road game in cold conditions outdoors, a spot where Tua and this team have historically had a little bit of an issue. Now you have to account for the fact that, yes, it's still a hostile road environment, one of the more passionate fan bases in the NFL, with a ton to play for, because they got that big win, a week ago, and really put themselves in a position to kind of box out the Baltimore Ravens potentially in the postseason. It is do or die there. I know they're going to be missing some pieces defensively. I still think we get a slower start from the Miami Dolphins here. And I also think maybe a little more conservative. Their defense has been playing extremely well, maybe more willing to play the punt game, play the field position game just a little bit more. So I thought this price point, once again, should have been, again, minus 120, plus 105 here on the Dolphins for their first drive to end in a punt.
All right. Well, first drive to end in a punt. Mike, I'm going to get some of your leans in this game from a side and total standpoint, at least what the computer is telling us as well. I know what everybody's telling me. Everybody's telling me that Trevor Lawrence is suddenly a great quarterback. Larry, listen, I don't know. I think you've kind of been in the middle of the Trevor argument. I don't think you've taken a side one way or the other, which nor do you have to. Are we saying Trevor Lawrence is a different quarterback because than what I said he was because of the last few games? I'm curious. What's your stance on that?
Well, Jacoby Myers has made him a little bit of a different quarterback because the way he's balanced that offense, and now Brian Thomas has his role, Jacoby Myers has his role. There's a lot more trust. The running game has its moments. Not yesterday. Yesterday was all about passing. You don't want to take away too much from destroying the Jets, who are basically they have no personnel left on defense at all. But yeah, it's very encouraging what we've seen from your guy.
I would agree that it's encouraging, but I want the chat to tell me, just give me a yes or no. And this is the question. Is Trevor Lawrence an above average quarterback? Which would mean, obviously, he's a top 16 quarterback in the league. I want to hear from the chat. Just put capital yes or capital no. Is he an above average quarterback in the NFL? I better see a lot of no's. Proppy, talk to me about a rushing prop in this Monday Night Football game concerning Jaylen Warren.
Yes, we're going to fade Jaylen Warren here, under 53.5 rushing yards. Jaylen Warren, who's been inconsistent this season, this matchup against Miami. Well, if you look at Miami's season-long numbers, they're middling. However, if we zoom in since week 10, this Miami defense ranks top 5 in EPA. They're also second in EPA per rush, 9th in success rate. Their run defense has been absolutely tremendous. I think they might be a touch. I don't know if they're that good, but they're certainly better than their season-long numbers reflect, and they're playing very good football right now, very stout. So this is a really difficult matchup for Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren is a bit of a front runner too, in my opinion. When things are going well, he does well, but if he's banged up, nicked up, just doesn't seem to play very well hurt. I also see Kenny Gainwell. They're in close to a 50-50 timeshare at the position as well. So all things considered, I just don't think Gainwell's running particularly well right now. The Steelers' offensive line certainly not doing him a ton of favors, and Miami is a very tough test for them. So I just think this is a spot we might see Gainwell get a couple extra snaps as well. I think it's a great spot to fade Jaylen Warren strictly on the rushing yards. Miami is susceptible to receiving running backs. They've given up a ton of production in that department. So I'm strictly trying to hone in here on rushing here. I think it's a good spot to fade Warren.
Receiving running backs, you say. That does feed in quite nicely to the prop I'm going to give out later on. I got to give a shout out to Mark Buckholz, who for some reason apologized for not being in the chat for quite some time. He says he's been very busy, which frankly, Mark, listen, nobody ever needs to apologize for not being there. We love that everybody is here. Like Liddy, Jen, Jason Harad. I'm just looking at names that I can see on the screen right now. There's so many others, Richard Pierre, but Mark also chimes in after his apology. He says, oh, by the way, also, I'm currently at the hospital as my wife's water broke a few hours ago. So here we are again, almost 2 full years later. I guess with that would be kid number 2 for Mark Buchholz. So I hope everything goes well. Shout out to you and your wife and your family. And thanks for being in the chat as you're at the hospital. That's great stuff, Mark. Wishing you the best. Mikey B, go ahead.
I will work up a Pampers parlay while
See,
we're waiting for mine, because we got to do this for Mark. Original reason. The birthday parlays are fun. You know, it's exciting. But the Pampers parlay, we're going to do one for Mark. Congratulations.
I feel like Mark had, like there was a reason behind him putting that in the chat. I feel like he was really searching for a Pampers parlay, but he didn't want to put it out there right away. All right. We're going to talk about first touchdown scores later on in this show. And I will tell you, BetMGM has that promo, that same promo where the second touchdown score, if it's your guy, you get your money back. Get your stake back in cash if your first touchdown score scores second. Instead, bet on any pro football player to score the first touchdown of the game. If you're right, you win, just like always. If your player scores second, you get your stake back in cash. And I think that really came in, what was it, last Thursday night? Didn't Kyle Pitts score the second touchdown? Or I think it was the second. I'm trying to remember. But either way, if you had Kyle Pitts, which a lot of people did, it was one of our plays, you got your money back courtesy of the BetMGM promo. Is Trevor Lawrence an above-average quarterback? So far, we only have 76 votes. 55% say yes, 45% say no. This is very close. We need everybody's vote on this one. And if you missed the live show for some reason, I want you to put it in the YouTube comments, whether you think Trevor Lawrence is an above average quarterback or not. Let's get to some SportsLine picks before we get to more Monday Night Football and, of course, NBA picks. Winnipeg Jets money line minus 128. That one courtesy of Matt Severance. Again, Winnipeg Jets money line minus 128. All right, we got to get to my pick. We got to get to some NBA. That's what we're going to do next. We got to get to Larry Hartstein's picks. And any questions you have in the chat about Monday Night Football or the NBA, let us know and we'll read those questions off as well. We'll cover it all right after this message from our partners.
Critics agree Landman is a hit.
We roll the dice one last time.
Men die. Oil companies don't.
We're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. A pretty good question here, Mikey B. Before we get to your picks, I got a question for Propstarz. Giuseppe Maricino says, and I'll go to you, Proppy. How would you guys tackle Achane props tonight? I mean, there's a couple things going on. Obviously, we've got a slightly inflated line because Achane's been so dominant. We've got a Pittsburgh rush defense that hasn't been great, and Achane has been great. This Miami rush offense has been great, but we also have the lingering rib issue, which may not be an issue at all, but I feel like I have to bring it up. Proppy, any thoughts on Achane tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. So rib injuries are tricky here. I think Achane is a guy that has had durability concerns in the past. Rib injuries are also susceptible to being re-aggravated as well. So if this rib injury was not an issue, I'd be much more inclined to look at Achane here. But just considering the potential of a re-aggravation, it's a stay away from me, even though it is a tremendous matchup. He's looked very good, and I do think Miami will have success on the ground. I just think the potential for injury here is too great.
McClure, I'm going to go to you and then Larry, because I saw you both kind of nodding your head. McClure, you go ahead first.
Yeah, for me, it would be unders or nothing on Achane here. I think that it's something that is very easy to re-aggravate, and particularly in the cold, it just does not feel good there. I think that the way they want to use him, and I think the way Pittsburgh defends here, I also think they stack a box and force to beat him with his arm, particularly in these conditions. So for me, it would be unders on Achane. Where I would be most interested probably is attempts under as well at 17.5. I know he had 3 games in a row of 20 plus, but kind of a medium baseline there's around 15, 16. And I think that there's a chance that he pulls himself from the game. It may come back in, but I do expect the ribs to be a little bit of an issue.
And we got backup running backs that aren't Devin Achane, but they do get playing time and are pretty solid behind what this offensive line has been doing. Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, Jalen Wright had 100 yards. Ollie Gordon is talented. The thing I would look at is Derek Harmon going to play? He's been out the last 2 games. He got in a limited practice on Saturday. Without him, the Steelers have given up 466 on the ground the last 2 weeks. The way I would play it is I would look at his longest rush. I like his longest rush over 17.5. Number one in explosives in the NFL. Pittsburgh is 20th in terms of defending explosive runs. And again, if Harmon is not out there, I love Achane's chance of breaking at least one long one.
So based on what, and I think the Derek Harmon point is critical. First of all, TJ Watt's not playing. And this is part of the reason I like the Dolphins +3, by the way, is because they're like, we already knew about the injuries on the back end for the Pittsburgh Steelers with Elliott being out. And, you know, just I think Duggar is back, but like, it doesn't look great in the secondary, in my opinion. The defensive line though, without TJ Watt, Derek Harmon, Larry, I expect Harmon to play, but I'm just not sure he's 100% with his knee. So, I mean, I think this is potentially an issue. It's a must-win game for Pittsburgh. All of them are at this point. And I think Derek Harmon's going to be out there. I just wonder how effective he's going to be. Again, we're playing doctor a little bit with Achane and Harmon, but these are unknowns. We just have to try to gauge one way or the other where we land. Mikey B. Let's go to some NBA before we circle back to the NFL. And I do want to acknowledge Beach Bum's argument. He says, Trevor Lawrence equals eggnog. Fine for a few weeks in December, but no one wants it at any other time. Absolutely love that take. Mikey B, how about a couple NBA takes?
All right, 2-player props for today. I'm doing an under. It feels gross. It feels dirty, but Proppy and Mike are on the show, so I know they like unders, so they are okay with me giving it out. I figure if I'm going to give out under, the two of them have to be on the show. All right, So first, Jaren Jackson Jr. under 5.5 rebounds at -123. He is not a good rebounder for a player of his size. He's averaging 5 rebounds per game this season. He's averaged 5.9 rebounds or fewer per game in all but one season of his career. He's playing the Clippers here, who rank 11th in rebounds allowed per game. Not a good matchup. He has played them 2 times this season. He did not have more than 3 rebounds in either of those games. So I like that under 5.5 rebounds for Jaren Jackson Jr. And we're going to go to another big man, Jakob Poeltl, over 18.5 points and rebounds at -127. He is playing 4 fewer minutes per game this season than he did last season, still averaging 10.2 rebounds or 10.2 points and 8 rebounds a game. The Heat have a lot of size. Bam Adebayo, Kel'el Ware. So I think we see extra minutes for Poeltl in this game. He did play them 3 times last season. He had at least 20 combined points and rebounds in all 3 games. What you like this year, Heat have played at the fastest pace and allowed the second most rebounds per game in the league. So Jakob Poeltl over 18.5 points and rebounds. I gave out an under. It feels gross. So how about we feel better with a Pampers parlay? Are we ready to see it?
Let's do it. Let's go.
Let me just pull it back up here. I did it on my phone. Now, as we know for the Pampers parlays, I like to go a little conservative on the lines because we're pairing 2 or 3 together and we still get plus odds. So Tyler Hero to record at least 18 points. He scored at least 20 points in every game he's played this season, so we're going to back it down a little bit, so he's got at least 18. Brandon Ingram to score at least 20 points in that Raptors Heat game, which should be up-tempo. And then Jalen Duren to grab at least 10 rebounds. The Celtics have very little size. He's played them 2 times this season. In those games, he had 16 and 18 rebounds, so we only need 10 here. Put all 3 of those together, it's plus 167. Hopefully that buys some of the extra absorbent, thick diapers for Mark and some of the nice scented baby wipes. Congratulations, Mark, on kid number 2.
Wow, that was beautifully done there. Ron Moore wants to know, Mike McClure, do we like a first half play for Monday Night Football?
I mean, technically my play is in the first half. It's more of a first drive play, but not touching anything here. If I had to touch something else, it would be a first quarter under 7.5.
Okay, that's very interesting. All right, we've got a couple of passing props. More of your questions, put them in the chat. I already see another comment from D. Johnson for Mikey B. So we'll get to that in just a second. But so I'm going to, this is the Pampers parlay. Ben has already put it up. That's excellent. Okay, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers, over 20.5 completions at -115. Like the thing about Aaron Rodgers is if you look at like the last 4 games, he's only hit this once. I mean, this is not an offense where we want to see, I should say where Pittsburgh wants to see Aaron Rodgers completely air it out. But I think this game, and I understand it's going to be cold, I don't think that's going to affect the short area passing game much at all. If anything, I think it's going to induce Pittsburgh to basically go to the short area passing game versus throwing it long, which Aaron Rodgers tends to do anyway. But the long and short of it is this Miami Dolphins rush defense, where it was terrible at the beginning of the season, it has really rounded into form. So I don't think, to Proppy's point about the Jaylen Warren under, whether you're looking at Warren or Gainwell, I don't think we're going to see consistent success. That doesn't mean we're not going to have a run here and there that's going to be good, but I don't think we're going to see consistent success with the ground game. I think this is going to be a competitive game where Aaron Rodgers is going to have to move it through the short area, and he's got the weapons to do it. They just passed to their tight ends. They got Adam Thielen on this roster now. Kenneth Gainwell, Jaylen Warren does get some catches as well. I think we're going to see a lot of like slow matriculation of the ball down the field with that short area passing game, and I think it'll be relatively efficient. So give me Aaron Rodgers over 20.5 completions at -115. Let's go to another passing prop, but instead of completions, we're actually going to attempts. Larry, talk to me.
Yeah, but before I get into it, I have to get something off my chest, guys. You know what I hate more than anything is the analysis that says, oh, if you just run the ball 25 or 30 times, you win the game. You know, that whole thing that doesn't realize that you're running the ball because the game script is allowing you to run the ball, and it's not a causation. Well, yeah, you just hand the ball 30 times and you win all. So that is what I wanted to address, because I'm going to under pass attempts. Now, you might say, well, they haven't been in some close situations. They've been getting these big leads over bad teams like the Jets, or even a big lead over Buffalo because of some turnovers, and they've been able to run the ball. But when I look at this prop, Tua under 28.5 attempts, I see 23 or fewer attempts in 4 straight, and 2 of those games are neck and neck games the entire way. So they're not games that got out of hand, and I just don't see this game script getting to be 14-0 Steelers, 17-3 Steelers. You know, if that happens, yes, this prop will be in some big trouble. But the Dolphins have figured out what they do best, and that's Devon Achane. That's the running game. You got 3 good running backs, and Tua, despite the thought that he can't play in cold weather, he has played well in cold weather. He played well in Green Bay last year, threw for 365. But I just think the way the Steelers have been getting gashed on the ground, the way Miami has been winning, is sticking to the run. Even if it's not working, you know Achane is going to break one off pretty soon. What I love about this prop more than anything is how slow both teams are, especially Miami. They are the 3rd slowest team in terms of just getting the playoff. They use a lot of clock. The Steelers are also bottom 10 in terms of not in any rush. So let's get a close competitive game that allows the Dolphins to stick to what they want to do, which is run the ball, and go under 28.5.
All right, we're going to under 28.5 pass attempts at -122. There's some questions about the star receivers in this game. Proppy, I'll start with you, and we can see if anybody else has takes on DK Metcalf, who, for the record, his over, or I should say his receiving yards total is in that 54 to 55 range. Actually, BetMGM has the best number, if you like the over, of 53.5. And then Jalen Waddle, 62 to 63.5. Proppy, any thoughts on either of these two guys?
Yeah, I like Jalen Waddle. This Dolphins team, while their passing volume is down as a whole, they have extremely concentrated target distribution. So it kind of makes up for the lack of volume. The past couple of years, Miami's led the NFL in passing attempts. I believe they're somewhere in the bottom 5 this year, but at least when Tua is throwing, the majority of those targets are going to Jalen Waddle, who's playing well. The yards per route run and the efficiency metrics are very good. So I like Jalen Waddle. I definitely would lean over. I just don't know if this is really the ideal or optimal passing environment where we're going to see potentially some additional volume. So I lean over on Jalen Waddle, just not necessarily the sort of game environment I would look to play overs.
Yeah, I would lean to DK Metcalf's under receptions of 4.5. It is juiced pretty heavy to the under, but you can still catch like in that -130, -135 range to DK Metcalf. Again, receptions under. Mike, do you have any takes on just the passing game in general and how these, like, if the Dolphins are going to win, how like obviously they're going to run the ball if they're going to win, but any takes on just the passing game in general on both sides?
I think that we should see a lot of running or short area passes. Like I think Rodgers is still going to drop back and have the football in his hands a little more, but I think it's going to come with a lot of running back receiving. So I actually like both running backs receiving overs on the Pittsburgh side. I know it's a little maybe a little counterintuitive to stack that and play both, but I think both running backs are involved in the passing game for Pittsburgh. As far as the Dolphins side, they want to run the football. The biggest thing I would say here in this game, I expect possessions to just be extremely limited, right? I think the clock is going to be moving pretty significantly on both sides. The other thing I would say, a guy like DK Metcalf, he's been his ability to potentially either draw a flag or commit a flag is very, very high in a primetime game like this with high stakes. So for me, I think that we see a lot of running. We could see some penalty yardage, but I would not be focused much on the passing game personally. I think it's a game that, again, I think it could be very, very limited possessions with that clock just running the entire time.
Mike, what are your thoughts on the +3 as it stands right now?
I would not play the +3 personally. I know that Miami has been good. I still am a little cautious backing them in this kind of environment when their best player is, in my opinion, one hit away from leaving this game. I really, if you remove Devon Achane, this team is like a 3-win team at best, So I think that if you remove Achane, Tua would struggle really mightily in this spot.
I see Proppy nodding his head as well. Shout out to Joshua Daves Martin, who was listening to this show on a plane. He's live streaming on a plane from South Carolina to Chicago on his way home from Denver. So we love to see that. And Katie Taylor jumps in. She says, hey, has Sia addressed the Trevor Lawrence performance yet? And Joshua Daves said that I didn't. No, I totally did. I talked about it. I acknowledged it. And that's what induced Ben to throw up the poll, which I don't know if we have final results of the poll, Ben, because I don't see it. Okay, here we go. Is Trevor Lawrence an above average quarterback? Yes, says 58% of the people who watch this show. But fortunately, 42% of you are actually correct. All right, Mikey B, there was a question regarding the NBA, and we'll get back to some football questions before we go to first touchdown score. But Mikey B, thoughts on Scotty Barnes over 13 rebounds and assists, Derek White over 23.5 points and assists?
I like the Barnes one better just because they're playing the Heat. We already talked about fast-paced team. They allow a lot of rebounds. No RJ Barrett still for the Raptors, so they've got a shorter rotation. So I like the Barnes one the best out of those two.
Proppy, go ahead.
It's a shame that Pittsburgh platoons at tight end. 3 tight ends are utilized. Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, because this is an excellent matchup for opposing tight ends. Miami has been extremely generous to opposing tight ends. They've been absolutely gashed by them recently. However, Pittsburgh deploys 3 different tight ends who see the field, who all have different roles. And a lot of them, even though they are good pass catchers historically, really have not been utilized, looking at a guy like Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith as well. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that this would be a matchup that would yield or would be good to take advantage of, but just hard to trust any of these pass catchers. I actually have more confidence in Darnell Washington because he's seeing the field more and because of his ability to block.
All right, well, let's see if we like any of these people as first touchdown scores. As if you have any last-minute questions, once we get done with first touchdown scores, we can try to answer those. But I'm going to the tight end, but I'm going to the other side of the ball. I mean, I think you could make an argument for Greg Dulcich at like 28-1, but I do feel like Darren Waller is especially in an uncomfortable environment for Tua, in the cold weather and in that type of narrative, which I do think, to Larry's credit, is a bit overstated. But, we'll see what happens tonight. I mean, really, when you're talking about like third and medium and they're anywhere near the goal line, or even second and long potentially, I think you're obviously looking at Jalen Waddle, but Darren Waller gets some first read looks as well. And he's the big target that's probably going to be in the back of the end zone, where Tua is going to be comfortable letting it go early and just seeing if Darren Waller can go up and get the ball. And again, I think Miami can win this game. I would put this line at 2.5. I think they're going to be very competitive. So give me Darren Waller plus 1,300. I say the Dolphins might score the first touchdown. Larry, talk to me about a potential pass catching Kenny Gainwell.
I like that one you got, Sia. And, Gainwell was supposed to be the backup. He wasn't supposed to be getting this much of a timeshare and this many opportunities, but that's the way it's worked out. And I love the fact that you can get him as a receiving touchdown. He's got 2 of those. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns. He scored last week. It's just hard to predict in the Steelers' backfield right now. And Gainwell has been a little bit more effective lately. So I think it's a good look at 10-1 for the home favorite.
Another good look. I really like this number, Mike. People are talking about the revenge narrative. I am surprised that the Dolphins ended up moving on from Jonnu Smith, but now he's a Steeler, Mike, and he's 20-1.
Yeah, 20-1, as Proppy mentioned. This has been a spot where the Dolphins have been extremely vulnerable to the position. Certainly will not be the guy that gets the most attention in the red zone. It'll definitely be whichever running backs on the field, whether it be Warren or Gainwell, and then, of course, Metcalf on his little island if he's on the field. There's been a few situations, though, in the red zone where Metcalf hasn't even been on the field, and they're opting to go really heavy tight end packages. Little bit of a revenge narrative on Monday Night Football here. Give me Jonnu Smith, the former Miami Dolphin, 20-1.
We're covering all the bases when it comes to tight ends because we're about to talk about Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. Mikey B, Pat Freiermuth.
That's right. Just take a Steelers tight end. We got 3 choices here. I took Freiermuth simply because he's got 3 red zone targets in the last 3 games, and 2 of them were inside the 10-yard line. So I already talked about the Dolphins. They've allowed 7 touchdowns to tight ends this season.
Wow. Okay. Well, one of them might be Darnell Washington, might Proppy?
It is fitting that we have all 3 tight ends here. Darnell Washington has been playing the most out of any of the Steelers tight ends. His ability to block, he is the best blocking tight end in the NFL. Just really phenomenal. He's kind of like the new age generation Mercedes Lewis.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a Mercedes Lewis clone, just a massive man who's just exceptional run blocker. So yeah, the Steelers really like to deploy heavy personnel. You can have all 3 tight ends on the field, and he's been playing more out of both tight ends recently. We've seen a kind of increase, a spike in his production. So I'll go with Darnell Washington here.
Mikey B, I didn't get your take, and Mike, I'm going to go to you next. Mikey B, I didn't get your take on this game. Do you have any takes on a prop or a total or this line of 3 now?
I think I'd probably just take the under. Like Mike's been talking about, everybody's been talking about. It's probably a run-heavy game. Clock moves pretty fast. Environment's not exactly conducive to the Dolphins and Tua, so I'd probably take the under.
Mike McClure?
Aaron Rodgers had a rushing touchdown a week ago. He is going off at 100-1 on a first touchdown for a quarterback.
What?
Maybe, just maybe, he watched Sunday Night Football last night with JJ McCarthy and the beautiful fake kind of waltzing into the end zone. 100-1. If you want to make a little charitable donation on a Monday in December, there are worse options.
Proppy, I do want to go to you, but if you have a defensive back that is just really far inferior to the other defensive backs on the field, that guy Revel has gotten picked on so much over the last 2 weeks. And I don't mean to dunk on him, but I feel like the Cowboys would have won without that DB. It's kind of like the Kobe Bryant thing, like the football player Kobe Bryant on Thursday night that just kept getting picked on with the Bucs. Man, the Cowboys really needed Trayvon Diggs back, and for whatever reason, they didn't get him back. But that was, honestly, to me, that was like the huge difference in the game. Proppy, go ahead.
Speaking of 100-1, you can get the Dolphins to make the playoffs at 100-1 right now. So just something to consider in case they win out here. But one thing I did want to discuss, I'm heavily invested in the futures market. I know a lot of you watching right now are as well. The Rams, Los Angeles Rams right now, who are the #1 seed in the NFL, coming off that very impressive victory yesterday against Detroit, sitting at 11-3, first place both in the NFC and in the division. You can get them to win the division right now at plus 175. Very interesting to me, considering they play Seattle. In Seattle, though, this week, where they're favored. However, they can lose the game versus Seattle. They then play the Falcons and the Cardinals and still win the division. So I opened a position, my first position in this division, on the Rams to win the division at plus 175. I think it's a very good look.
I'm stunned that it's plus 175. That's new. I haven't looked. That's news to me. Wow. Okay. I mean, this is Seattle's great, okay, but like they almost lost to Phillip Rivers.
Seattle also gets 49ers as well. So they not only do they play the Rams this week, upcoming week, they also have a much more difficult rest of season schedule, whereas the Rams play the Cardinals and the Falcons.
Mike, you had something as well, McClure?
Yeah, I would say it's just still a 3-horse race. The 49ers can still make some noise there as well. So it's very, very interesting. I'm more worried about Devontae. I think that he's probably, if I had to guess, he's out 3 to 6 weeks.
Probably. Is it plus 175? Is it universally plus money? Because somebody was saying they saw a minus number. Like,
it was us on Camby and Bet Rivers an hour ago because I opened a significant position on them.
Okay, yeah, well, we'll check that out. But that is that sounds like a really, really good bet to make. I think we're done. Before we get to the recap, does anybody hand up? Does anybody, like Larry? You don't have any defensive props. People always ask you about that.
I've been looking because I really enjoyed last night's game for defensive props, but the thing is, both of these offenses don't generate a lot. And when you're looking at projecting something that will happen, most of my defensive props are overs, and these teams are not good for overs. The only guy I'm looking at is safety Ashton Davis. If I can find a 4.5, I'm going to look to go over that. But these teams, they play slow. They don't generate a lot of tackle opportunities.
Okay. There was Eric David in the chat. He acknowledged something that I feel like I want to acknowledge as well. It does look like Rob Reiner, passed away tragically yesterday. I don't know how much confirmation we have on the story behind that, but I got to say, gentlemen, I'm so big on the movie A Few Good Men. I mean, Rob Reiner, by directing that movie, and I know he directed a ton of other great movies as well, but my path to going to law school was basically, if not for Rob Reiner and A Few Good Men, I honestly would not have even gone to law school and practiced law for 13 years. So, I mean, it turns out he was just a huge influence just by directing that movie and the manner in which he directed it. And, obviously you got the stars from that movie as well. I got to say, certainly a tragic passing, but I do want to give a shout out to Rob Reiner. I know, it's kind of whatever. I'm just throwing it out there, but he had a huge influence on my life, as it turns out. Proppy, go ahead.
Terrible tragedy. Stand By Me, directed by Rob Reiner, is one of my top 3 favorite films of all time. So just devastating news regarding Rob Reiner. And if you have never seen Stand By Me, it's the best coming of age film ever made.
And it's timeless. You can watch that right now, and you won't be affected by the fact that it was made, 40 years ago. The Princess Bride is another one of those movies. When Harry Met Sally. We've got people sleepless in Seattle, Scott and Rick, and a lot of people. If you listen to this show later, put it in the YouTube comments. A Rob Reiner movie that maybe your favorite Rob Reiner movies. Meathead is one of I've never seen that one. All right, I think that'll do it. Let's take a look at the recap screen and the first touchdown scores. I've got Aaron Rodgers over 20.5 completions at minus 115. Larry Hartstein's got Tua under 28.5 pass attempts at minus 122. We go to the NBA. Jaren Jackson Jr. under 5.5 rebounds, minus 123 from Mikey B. And Jacob Poeltl over 18.5 points and rebounds at minus 127. And do not forget, we had a Pampers parlay as well. Dolphins to punt on the first drive. Mike McClure is going right back to that, trying to cash in again. That one is plus 105. Jaylen Warren under 53.5 rushing yards at minus 115. That one courtesy of Propstarz. NHL, Winnipeg Jets money line minus 128. That one courtesy of Matt Severance. And then, of course, our first touchdown scores. A lot of tight ends on this list, almost all tight ends, outside of Kenny Gainwell at plus 1,000. And that, of course, is Larry Hartstein's pick. But I got Darren Waller. Then we got Mike McClure with Jonnu Smith. We got Mikey B with Pat Fryermuth and Propstarz with Darnell Washington. That last one, 20-1. Here is the Pampers parlay, courtesy of Mikey B and Ben. Good job putting this one up. Tyler Hero, 18+ points. Brandon Ingram, 20+ points. Jalen Duren, 10+ rebounds. This one pays 167. That's for Mark and everybody out there that requires Pampers today or anytime in the near future. What a great show. Honestly, big shout out to Ben. Give Ben a shout out in the chat, not just today, but every day if you can, because he really runs this show. A big shout out to Ben. Thank you, Proppy as well. Mikey B, Larry Hartstein, Mike McClure. You'll catch some of us at 12 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. So look out for that, an expanded version of some of our Monday Night Football props, but we'll look ahead to next week as well and talk a little college football. But for now, we're going to get out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, we rest our case.